Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's Daniel Midson-Short back with another episode of Self-Improvement Saturday. Today is July 15th, 2023, and this is episode 3 of Self-Improvement Saturday. Hello if you're joining us live, and hello if you're watching this later. Good to have you here with us again. This is our third episode of the show, and I'm excited to be back. It's been a busy week for me, lots happening, but I'm excited to be here today, and I've got some really cool ideas to share with you today that hopefully will be valuable for you. So, as always, I have my agenda here that I'm going to be working from for the next 30 to 40 minutes or so. And hopefully, there'll be some insights and some things that will be valuable for you. And as always, at the end, if you want to share comments or chat, we can definitely talk and see what you think as well. So great to have you here today. And this Saturday, I want to talk about a couple of things. Number one, I want to share a little bit about my reasons for competing and continuing to compete to win the World Championship of Public Speaking through Toastmasters. That's something that I've been pursuing for many years now. And I want to talk about how my motivation's changed and why I'm doing it, somewhat for myself, but also because a lot of people ask me, and it would be good to be able to just send them this video, honestly, about why I keep persisting with it. So that's the first thing I want to talk about. And then the second thing, our main topic for today, I want to get into is the value of honesty. This is something that I have been thinking a lot about in my own life. I've been working on a speech around this topic. And so the idea of honesty and how it impacts our lives if we aren't honest and if we are honest. So I want to talk about some ideas there that hopefully will be insightful for you as well. So those are the two main topics for today. And then, of course, at the end, if we have any comments or questions or anything like that, I'll be happy to talk through those for those of you who are joining us live. All right, so let's get into topic number one. Why do I compete for the World Championship of Public Speaking? Why do I keep pursuing this goal now after almost 10 years after I set the goal? In 2013, one of my friends made it to the semi-final round of the World Championships of Public Speaking, and I was very inspired by him. And I told him at the end of that season that I was going to compete next year and I was going to win the contest, like everyone who competes, of course. For those of you who don't know, the World Championship of Public Speaking is something that Toastmasters runs every year. There are 30,000 people typically around the world who begin the competition, and it whittles all the way down to the top 30 and then the top 8 and then the first, second, and third place winners of the World Championship. And the idea is that you're supposed to provide a speech that is inspirational, motivational, has some sort of life application, and it goes between 5 and 7 minutes. So that is the criteria. Everything else is up to you. It can be funny, it can be sad, it can be intellectual, it can be whatever, but you have to create and craft a piece that people really resonate with, that people want to hear and take away with them. And if you do, then you might have the chance to win the World Championship. The reason that I began competing, if I'm very honest, is that I thought it would make me famous. I thought that if I won the World Championship in a couple of years, I would be able to transfer that into money as a speaker and also travel and fame and recognition. And that is kind of, I think, the reason a lot of people begin this journey. They think, oh, if I can just win, everyone will know me and I'll be able to get all these gigs and I'll travel the world and I'll be famous. The reality is it's not quite like that. Toastmasters isn't worldwide known. A lot of people think it's just this weird organization where people toast bread, but it's actually not. It's a place where people practice public speaking. So that was my first motivation. And I didn't realize until several years into the contest, that isn't reality. Most people are not going to even know if you win the World Championship, and they won't think any differently of you. Inside Toastmasters, obviously, you have some acclaim and some recognition, but outside, it's pretty much business as usual. So the first reason, after a couple of years of competing, started to fall away. And then it really broke down into 3 things. The first was the skill. I realized probably about my 3rd year into competing that the skill of the contest is very important to me. If I'm able to develop my skills and my ability as a speaker, it transfers to other parts of my life as well. Like what I'm doing right now, I've been able to speak at TEDx events. I've been able to do keynote speeches. I've been able to speak at weddings and funerals and different events throughout life. The skill of being able to speak is actually one form of success that I gain from competing year after year in this contest. So that's the first thing. Second thing is the challenge. The challenge itself is interesting because I used to get very sort of, I don't want to say overwhelmed by the challenge. I used to get kind of angry about the fact that I wanted to win the world championship and I'd burn for the result and I'd be obsessed with the challenge of trying to beat everyone. Just the last couple of years, I've started to realize that the challenge is actually a fun challenge. And that if I keep competing and I keep seeing it as a fun challenge, it completely changes the tone of how I approach the contest and also how I come across when I'm on stage. Any other speech I do, I think of it as a fun challenge. It's something I want to create for the audience to resonate with and to take home. But for whatever reason, when it's a speech contest, you think you have to beat everyone. It's not the case. And so with the World Championship, I've started to realize that the challenge is to craft a speech that really resonates, that impacts, that lasts and stands the test of time, and to demonstrate that through your skill. So those two things are kind of combined, but the challenge is something that has become exciting for me. And I've started to be driven by the idea of having this fun challenge of having to win the World Championship over maybe a decade, maybe longer. Who knows how long it will take. But anyway, I'm going for it. The third thing, which I learned from one of my mentors, is the character that the contest builds. This is probably the biggest reward that people don't realize until they've been part of the contest for several years. There are so many people who come into speech contests in Toastmasters and they think they're going to win the first year. I was one of those people. Eventually, they lose and then they think this contest is rigged, it's not fair, I should have won, blah, blah, blah. And then they go away. Many of them never return. They get angry at the judges, they get angry at the situation, whatever. They say the other speeches are stupid and they just give up. Very few people persist more than 2 or 3 years in this speech contest. And that's why very few people are world champions. I am now in my 6th official year of competing, and I've been at it for 9 years in total. I took years off in between because I just needed a break. And also during COVID, it was only virtual. So I wanted to compete on stage. But the 6 years of competing have changed my character. I have actually learned how to lose well, how to compete, how to put myself out, how to push myself, and still not come back with the result I wanted. That is an essential life skill and ability. And if you don't cultivate the character that comes with this contest, you're probably not going to get anywhere over the long term. That character and ability is translated into business, it's translated into relationships throughout my whole life. This idea that sometimes I'm not going to get what I want, but I'm going to keep trying anyway. That's where the character comes from. And once you've built that character, it translates to your whole life and you feel different as a person. So those three things, the skill, the challenge, and the character, those are the reasons I keep competing for the world championship and I will persist until I win. In my mind, I have already won. That might sound crazy or arrogant to some people, but in my mind, I visualize myself as the world champion of public speaking. It's just a matter of the circumstances catching up. It may be this year, it may be next year, it may be in 15 years. The point is that I get to develop my skills, I get to have a fun challenge, and I get to keep developing my character along the way. And those three things are actually the reward, not the title, not the trophy, not the recognition. So there we go. That's a little bit about my motivation behind the world championship goal, why I keep persisting, and as crazy as it is, why I actually enjoy it. It's been a journey, but I'm still on the journey. All right, so that is our first topic for today, and hopefully that was insightful for anyone who has ever wondered that about why I keep going after all these years. The next topic that I want to talk about today is the value of honesty. And this is something that I have been reading a lot about, I've been thinking about in my life a lot, and it's actually something I'm crafting some speeches about right now and maybe some videos in the future. So look out if you're on my channel for the value of honesty. Why is honesty important in our lives? Why don't we just lie all the time and cheat and steal and fake? Why do we persist in having integrity and being honest and being congruent and being true? Well, I believe there is a lot of value in honesty if you deep dive into it and you really understand it. Let me begin by telling you a little story, an experience that I had many years ago in New York City. I traveled from Australia all the way to New York City as a tourist. And one of the things I really wanted to do was to go to the Empire State Building. I'd seen it in movies and I was all excited to see it. So I went there and there was a huge line around the block. I couldn't get in. So I just stood in the line for like half an hour, just waiting to get in the door. As I was standing there, this old gentleman kind of shuffled over to me. He had this dirty, dusty old coat on and one of those fedora hats. And he looked at me and he said, "Hey, what's your name?" And I said, "I'm Daniel." And he said, "Oh, Mr. Daniel. Well, I'm Mr. Henry." And he said, "Well, Mr. Daniel, as you can tell, I am homeless, but rest assured, I'm not going to ask you for any money. In fact, you and I can do a business deal." And I'm thinking, okay, what's this about? But I'm stuck there in the line. There's nothing I can do. So I said, "What kind of business deal?" And he said, "Well, I have right here this New York Times newspaper. Now, truth be told, it's a couple of days out of date, but I assure you there's some good stuff in here. And if you would like to do a business deal for $1, I will sell you this newspaper. What do you say, Mr. Daniel? Do we have a deal?" Now, what could I do? I couldn't resist. It was a great pitch. I said, "Okay, sounds good." I gave him $1 and he gave me the paper. And then he walked away. Just as he got to the end of the Empire State Building, he turned around. He looked at me and he said, "Mr. Daniel, do you think you'll be needing to hang on to that newspaper?" And I said, "Well, probably not." And he said, "Well, would you mind if I have it back? Because then I could do a few more transactions today and make little bit of money. What do you say?" And I said, "Sure thing, Mr. Henry." I handed him the paper back and off he went. Now, that was probably 15 years ago. I don't remember anything about the Empire State Building, but I still remember Mr. Henry. The reason is that he taught me an important lesson, and that is honesty gets you a lot further in life. It's hard to be honest, but it's easy to live with the results of being honest. That's something that we all have to learn in our own way. But he taught me that he was honest and open about what he was doing. He did it in a fun way, but he got what he wanted because of the honesty that he shared. That kind of sets up this whole discussion. And I have a couple of notes here that I want to go through. So, everyone says that they value honesty. They say, yeah, it's good to have honesty. It's good to have integrity. It's good to be true to your word, to tell the truth, all that kind of stuff. But if you think about it, how often do we actually tell the truth in our lives? How often do we actually say to people what we think, what we feel? How often do we express our needs to people? How often do we ask for what we need? How often do we tell someone if we're hurt or we're sad or we need help and ask for that help? And then, bigger than that, how often do we actually live life as our true selves? How often are we honest with ourselves about who we are as a person and how we're living our lives? These are some tough questions to answer, but I think it's important to think about from time to time. As I said, we value honesty. We say we stand behind it. We speak it out, as a virtue, but then we don't actually follow through. We don't live that honesty most of the time. I'm talking about myself just as much as I'm talking about you or anyone in the world. We all kind of sugarcoat and we minimize and we tell each other little lies. We think we're doing it because we want to help each other. If I say something really honest and direct to a person, it might offend them, it might hurt them. And vice versa. They might think, well, if I tell Daniel something, it's going to offend him or hurt him. The reality is, even though that honesty is difficult, it does help us. The truth hurts, but it helps us. Really important thing to understand. Most of us find that it's hard to be honest and easy to lie because it will get you ahead in the world. The truth is, if you use little lies and you kind of soften things and you manipulate the situation, you will get what you want to an extent. But sometimes in the getting what you want, it's kind of empty. There's nothing there. You don't feel great about yourself. And that's important to recognize that lies and being dishonest does work. It does actually work for people. And you've probably done it in your life. You've said something that was untrue, or you've said a half truth, or you've minimized what you actually felt or thought, and it's actually helped you to move forward in the world. But at the same time, under the surface, you kind of knew you weren't being true. And that's important to recognize, is that even though we can use lies and manipulation and falsehoods to get what we want, very often it's nowhere near as rewarding as if we're true and honest and direct about what we want. So that's important. As I mentioned before, the other thing is that it's very hard sometimes to be honest with others because we think that we're going to offend them. we're going to hurt their feelings. Now, I have a great story about this that happened to me about probably 6 months to 12 months ago, where my fiance, Lauren, said to me, I think it's time that we just shaved your head. And I said, what do you mean? I said, my hair's fine. People love it. If you watch any of my previous videos, you'll see that I had this kind of little tuft of hair at the back of my head. It was the last bastion of hope of a balding man just puffing out there. And I used to think it looked fine, right? And she said, honey, I love you, but it kind of looks like someone half shaved a poodle. Like, it's not a good look. Okay. We need to shave off the hair. That hurt. That was a painful thing to hear, but I needed to hear it. It was important. The truth hurt, but the truth helped me. I do look better with my hair short like this. I do look better without my little tuft of hair at the back. And as long as I kept that, I kind of looked a bit silly, but no one else in my life had the courage to help me by being honest. But she did because she loved me. And that's an example where if you are honest with people about something that they're needing to do, or that's something that they're not recognizing, maybe they have a blind spot, you may think that it's hurting, but a lot of the time it's actually helping over the long term. Maybe not right in the moment. Maybe they're going to get upset, they're going to get angry, but you're actually helping them over the long term. Really, really key point to remember. The reason I think that honesty hurts so much is because it's true. So here's an example. If you think about a time that someone really insulted you in your life, said something to you where you were like, oh, how dare you? I can't believe you said that to me. The only reason that you felt that feeling of offense or resistance is because there was some truth in it. So, for example, if someone says to me, you know, you're fat, right? If they were really rude and mean to me. Now, I'm not overweight, not too badly overweight, maybe a little bit, but not too badly. So I wouldn't go, oh, that hurts. I'd be like, yeah, maybe I'm a little overweight, whatever. But if you said to me, Daniel, you're bald, I'd go, oh, yeah, I am, because I am bald. It's the reality of what I'm dealing with. And so that's going to affect me differently. If someone says to you, you really screwed up, if you believe that you screwed up, then you are going to feel it. It's the same thing in any part of your life. The truth hurts because there is truth there. The honesty that people give you, if they're very direct and brutal with you, it's because it actually is affecting you in some way. But there's a huge benefit in that too. If you can listen to it, like I did with my hair, and you can actually take on the feedback, you will probably do better as a result. It's not easy, but you will actually get something from it if you sit with it. Even if you're offended for a while, if someone says something hurtful to you, there is some truth there, and think, what can I learn from the truth? What can I use this for in my life? Makes a total difference. The last point that I have about honesty today is that honesty sets you free. Or you could say the truth sets you free. Honesty is freedom. I've shared this story several times in keynote speeches that I've done and in different forums, but one of the biggest things that I used to lie to myself about for a lot of years of my life was the fact that I couldn't achieve my dream of being a speaker, being a motivational speaker. When I was very young, when I was 15 years old, my dream in life was to be a motivational speaker. As corny as that sounds, it wasn't cool. I knew it probably wasn't going to make me rich or famous, but I just loved sharing ideas exactly like I'm doing now. I loved helping people to grow and improve themselves. And I had this passion for personal development. I wanted to be a motivational speaker when I was 15 years old. But like most young people who have a big dream in their heart, I did nothing. I just buried it. I gave into the fear of fitting in and being like everyone else. So I went to college, I got a job, I started a career, I got busy, I started living my life, and I started telling myself little lies about, well, it's not realistic, it's too late for you, there's nothing you can do about it, who needs more motivational speakers in the world, whatever. I started giving myself these rational lies about why it wouldn't work for me. So over time, that got more and more buried underneath the surface, and I lived a normal life. I had a career, I was reasonably successful, everything in my life seemed fine, but I always knew under the surface there was something there that was missing for me. And I remember one night I was out with friends at dinner, and I went into the bathroom of the restaurant, and for some reason I looked at myself in the mirror. I was about 35 years old, and I thought, you are not living your life. You are living someone else's life. And that was a tough moment for me. I don't know why it caught me there and then in that moment, but for whatever reason, I just felt it very viscerally. I felt like, oh, I'm right. There's something that's missing. And I knew what it was. It was that I wasn't speaking, I wasn't putting myself out and delivering and sharing ideas like I am right now. So I had to be very honest with myself in that moment. And what I decided to do was to face my fears of public speaking and also putting myself out there. Those two things were the fears that I had. And so, to kind of come full circle here, I joined Toastmasters. I started doing speeches. And when I began, I was terrible. I didn't have any skills as a speaker. I didn't know how to structure a speech. I was nervous. Everything was going wrong. But I kept asking for that honest feedback from people in my club. I kept saying, how can I get better? What can I change? What can I do? And week after week after week, I just kept going back. I kept delivering more speeches and getting involved. And what happened slowly was that my skill got better. But more importantly, the dream that I had when I was 15 years old actually started to emerge, started to become real. And I started to feel incredibly alive. About a month ago, I had the chance to do a keynote speech for a group of 15-year-olds. They're all youth leadership students and they're all starting out their lives. And rather than give them some pump up motivational message, I just told them that story. I told them the truth that it took me 20 years to actually pursue my passion and my dream in life, which was to share ideas and to be a motivational speaker. Now, I'm still not rich, I'm still not famous, but I am fully alive when I'm doing exactly what I'm doing here, when I'm sharing ideas, when I'm helping people to grow and to develop themselves. I share that with you because all of us have something in their life, in your life, that is important to you. Something that you need to do, that you want to do, that's a passion, that's a talent, that's a dream that you have. And if you deny yourself the chance to do that or to be that, you will feel it. You will feel your life starting to shrink. You'll feel yourself starting, your true self starting to erode. And you'll find that life is a lot duller as a result. It's kind of like you're walking around half alive. Really important that you listen to your own honesty, that you listen to the truth of who you are and you start to pursue it. Now, as I said, it took me 20 years to actually have the courage to join Toastmasters and to start speaking. And I was bad when I began, but I kept going. And you can do the same thing, my friend. If you have something in your life that you truly want to do, you truly want to be, there is a way, there is a method, there's someone else who's already doing it who you can reach out to and you can figure out a way to start doing it for yourself. Once you do that, you will feel completely different because the truth will set you free. Your truth, your honest person that you are inside will begin to emerge and you will feel completely different about yourself. That, my friends, I believe is the value of honesty. I hope those ideas are insightful and useful for you. Honesty, as I said in the beginning, is something we all say that we value and we want to espouse in our lives, but very rarely are we actually honest with other people and, most importantly, with ourselves. So I encourage you today to think about that. How can you be more honest with other people? How can you receive more honesty and truth from people around you who can help you? And finally, how can you be more honest with yourself about who you want to be and where you want to go in your life? So there we go. That's my little riff on honesty for today. I see we have a comment in the chat from J World. Got a couple of fire emojis. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. I hope you're enjoying the live. Got a couple of people here live. Hello to those of you who are joining us live. Great to see you. If anyone has any comments or questions in the chat, feel free to pop them in now. I'm hoping that as we grow this channel and this live event every weekend, we'll get more and more interaction and have more of a community here of people who get to know each other and share in this idea of developing and growing as well. That's really the goal of this whole channel, is to provide a environment, a place for people who are actualizers, who are self-developers, to actually be around each other as well. And also, I should put in a plug here for the Discord channel. We have a few people who have joined so far. The Discord channel is called "Thank You for Improving Yourself," and I'll pop the link in the chat, the video notes after the call. If you want to join the Discord, that's another place where you can share ideas and things like that. and it makes a big difference. What did you say? J World, you said, thank you for the inspiration. Just hit 30, so your videos hit different on self improvement. Yes. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. I try my best to be as honest as I can about what it's like to live life in your 30s, especially if you haven't achieved everything that you thought you would. We all have ideals when we're 15 and 20 and 25 and whatever. But when you get to 30, it starts to hit a little different. Like you said, you start to think, oh man, I'm getting up there. I'm getting a little older. Is this the life that I'm going to live? It's a little bit confronting. So I'm glad that those videos have helped you. And yeah, I really encourage you to keep trying to become a truer, more honest, real version of yourself. And remember that there's no scorecard in life. There's no time limit to become who you are. You just got to hang in there and keep persisting. And the journey, sound like I'm just spitting out cliches here, but the journey is actually the reward. The development that you have along the way is actually the reward, especially in your 30s and 40s. All right, my friends. Well, that is everything I had for Self Improvement Saturday, episode 3. It's great to have those of you who are here. If you're watching this later, I appreciate any comments you want to share. I would ask as a final question, how do you need to be more honest in your life? What's something that you could say to someone? What's something that you could ask someone for honesty about? Or what is a way that you could be more true and honest to yourself in the things you want to do in your life? Ask yourself those tough questions and live your truth. And I promise you that that will be a very quick path to self improvement. All right. Well, that is everything for today. Appreciate you all being here. Appreciate everyone watching. And as I always say, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. And thank you for improving yourself.